Welcome to the GoPROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to go pro with Jeremy Torres. My guest today is an accomplished film and stage performer who's been acting in film and television since the age of 6 years old. He's appeared in productions including Freddy Vs Jason, Door to Door, Carrie, and the musical Ragtime. He's currently the founder and managing director of Total Buy-In and the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Power to Speak Naked. Please welcome to the GoPROcast, Tyler Foley. Brother.
Oh, that's awesome, Jeremy. You know I live for applause.
Yeah, I even forgot to keep it going. Normally, I let it keep going right through it, but it slipped my mind.
Here's the thing: I'm a trained professional, so I won't start until the applause stops.
Yes, so. Yeah. Keep it coming, babe. I love it. That's why I liked having you on the show, because I do have a lot of friends and colleagues, part of the NSA, part of Cigar Peg, which is the philanthropic kind of part of NSA that I belong to, and it's pretty much all I talk to these days are professional speakers besides my coaching clients. But I don't have a lot of them on the show. A couple of them. I mostly have the business people, and we talk about adversity and getting into business and business. But for some reason, it struck me as like, I gotta have Tyler on, because you got a cool story. You seem like a great guy, and I think we got a lot more in common than most people would think, even though we've got a lot of differences in us. But so welcome to the show.
Oh, it's an absolute joy and a pleasure to be here. And yeah, no, I love how when you start really talking with people, how all of a sudden a lot of those commonalities come out. You know, if you play drums, I play drums. Yeah. When you get into like beyond those surface conversations, how it's amazing. I think, and it happens a lot more than people realize, that we have a lot of commonality when you start to get to know people.
Yeah, especially, and one of the things that I live in is LinkedIn. Being a business coach, and you're talking about business people, it's the best way to get into corporations, especially decision makers. It really strikes me, though, how many bad people there are who are just horrible at going, just throwing up all over you. As soon as they connect with you, I'm a coach, I coach coaches. Let me tell you what I can do, coaches. Can we put you on this? Yeah. Like, dude, did you even look at my profile? Did you even take a second to read what I do, who I help, how I help? No.
Do you even? Yeah, I always write that back. Do you know what I do?
Yeah.
And can you explain it to me? If you can tell me in 30 words or less what I do, I will listen to your pitch.
Yep. Or what I like to do, and this is what's worked and what I learned from the Noodleberg Daily Huddle with Mark and Steve Noodleberg, is basically going onto these people's profiles and going, somewhere along the line, I probably figured out you were a drummer. I finally figured out you did safety videos, all this stuff. Yeah. And I go, Tyler, you're a coach, I'm a coach. You also play the drums. I play the drums. I realize I see that you do safety videos. And how cool that I spent 30 years in the utility construction business. And now we're talking about personal stuff, personal. And it's not about business. And then you feel like less threatened. Oh, wow, that's a real connection. I can't tell people, this is not a pitch request. It's a connect request.
Yeah. In my Facebook group that I run, the free one, Endless Stages, one of the things that I do is I send a personalized video to every new member who pops in. And in that video,
gold.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Hey, look, there's Endless Stages. It's me and my business partner, Michael. He's co-founders of that.
Yes.
And one of the things that I'll do is I send a personalized video, and as part of the email sequence of welcoming people in, we offer them a 20-minute one-on-one session to get to know them. And a lot of people, because of the way that the industry is right now, think that that's going to be some kind of a pitch fest, right? Like at the end, I'm going to be like, I have this $10,000 coaching package that you should be involved in.
By the way, how many times have you paid for that? Yeah. I have fallen for it a number of times.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I say in my welcome video is, just so you know, this 20-minute one-on-one is exactly that. I want to get to know you. I
Yeah.
want to get to know you as an individual. I don't want you to just be a Facebook name that pops up in the group. I don't want you to just be a floating head. I want to
Yes.
know who it is that I'm serving. And the best way for me to do that is to have a conversation with you. So just please, if you take advantage of it, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to have a chat with you. And probably only a third of the members actually take the time to hop on initially.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. They got to feel they're kind of baby stepping into the pool, right?
Exactly. But everyone to a letter has come to me afterwards and said, thank you. Like I feel validated. I feel heard. I feel listened to. I'm like, well, that's my only point here. I mean, I'm running a speakers group, which means for most of what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing a lot of this, talking to you.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I've heard you, so that when I'm talking to you, the stuff that's coming out of my mouth is serving you, because in a training format, I don't have that ability to do that. So this is my chance to do it. And it tailors and customizes our content, which makes it a lot easier for me to deliver it. And then, I actually get to know the people. So I know what their quirks are. So I know, right? It's amazing.
That's what it's all about, right? You said the magic word. It's about getting to know them, making it personal, serving your people in your group. And people are so skeptical because there's so many dirtbags out there who are just take. In fact, endless stages. I'll give you another little plug here. We talked about before we came on here how that is so reminiscent of a friend of mine, Bob Berg's book about endless referrals. And you said, I stole it. That's a direct lift. It's an homage. It's out of appreciation. And my friend Steve Needleberg taught me about the power of R&D. And we don't call R&D research and development. It's rip off and duplicate. Right? Yeah. It's do it your way. And you did. This thing looks amazing, by the way. I've already joined. I can't wait for my 20-minute one-to-one video time, FaceTime with you off the air to get to know you more. But really, the content that you have out here, and it looks like my whole interview with you is off the rails. We're going totally at bass backwards, but I'm okay with that. You got a great website. It's very easy to tell what you do, who you help, how you help by the content that you are sharing out there in the world of online. So how did you get so good at that? And let's start kind of get this thing back into the barn. How did you go from acting as a child into kind of what you do? Because, it seems not a lot of people, it's very humbling. It would seem to do coming in from an actor to serving and speaking.
Well, and it's funny because, people read my bio, especially at, introductions of shows and stuff like that, or when I'm speaking on stage. And I always sit back and I'm like, who is this guy that's about to go? Oh, it's me.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, wow. That sounds impressive when other people say it. For me, I was just living my life. And how I got from A to really, I don't even think I have the alphabet. I think we need to start getting into Roman numerals and subtext, because I've had so many twists and turns along the way. But I did start out, as you had mentioned in the introduction, in theater when I was 6 years old, and then moved into film and television in my later teens. Yeah. Really spent my entire life focused on performance. Which is funny because 6-year-old Tyler didn't actually want to be an actor when he grew up. He wanted to be a pilot. And then in about my early, my tweens and my early teens, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And acting was just something that I did to put money away for my college fund.
Right.
But in my late teens, I graduated from the Alberta High School of Fine Arts. I actually had a medical incident that paralyzed the left side of my body at 17. I woke up on what would have been January 1st, 1997, New Year's Day. And I couldn't move the left side of my body. My face was drooping. To this day, they're not really sure what it was. If it was a Bell's palsy or if it was a mini stroke or what it was. If it was a Bell's palsy, it should have really only affected my face, not my body.
Yeah. Wow.
But if it was a stroke, I shouldn't have been able to recover the way that I did.
It's just one of those miracle. Really could be a miracle.
Well,
I mean, they exist.
Exactly.
Miracles
and medical mystery, and I'm happy that it is. One of the greatest lessons that I ever got out of it, one of the doctors treating me, Bob Corbett, I was frustrated because we were going for tests and tests and tests and tests, and nothing was coming back positive. And he said, well, think of the blessing of that. I was like, what? He's like, well,
wow,
you don't know what it is, so you don't know if it could or couldn't be healed. And
you still have potential for
so we're not putting you into a
and
box. Yeah, there's no label here, so we can try everything, and something may work.
So how long were you kind of afflicted with that paralyzation?
Just over a year.
Wow, I must have been extremely learning to be patient and to not get frustrated. I mean, what kind of kid were you before that? Were you pretty much a petulant kind of everything now and on the go? And
I was obnoxious.
Yeah.
No. And I grew up in the arts. I had an incredible family unit. My mom was incredibly supportive, but I was a rebellious
You sound like you grew up outdoors too, being up,
Well, I grew up in a rural community, so I grew up all my family ranches. I grew up in town, but my aunts, and my uncles, and everybody that we have ranches. I went to a very rural junior high school, so all of my friends were ranchers and farmers. Half of them have competed in pro rodeo.
Tough kids.
And are missing digits because of it.
I bet.
So, and then here I was growing up in the arts, so I had this real blend of education and very diverse experiences. And so, I definitely had and was encouraged to have my own opinion and my own attitude, which is something that I've carried on to my daughter, and now realize the mistake in that. You're
How
like,
old is she?
yes, she's 6 years old.
Oh yeah, you're off the cliff.
And I want her to have her own voice in the world. Unfortunately, I'm encouraging her to have her own voice.
You're just paying the tab for that right now because you're going to go through all the, the things that girls go through.
The number of times that I've had to say to her, I value your opinion, but we need to speak it in appropriate ways.
Right.
Because I don't ever want her to feel that she can't speak her mind or that her voice is less than. But at the same time, daddy needs shush.
Oh my Lord.
So that
daughter needs mush.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
How did you pull out of that, the paralyzation? You dealt with it. You obviously it's such a impactful thing that happens to your life helps you develop who you are, right?
Well,
it has to become a part of you.
And that's the funny thing. It didn't. The nice thing is I got over it. So it's one of those things that happened.
But you must have a unique appreciation for life and health more than a lot of others.
I have a unique appreciation for life and health, but have since I was 6 because my father passed away in a motor vehicle accident when I was 6 years old. And that's actually how I ended up getting into theater. Roundabout.
A very special GoPROcast with Tyler Foley. They didn't know it's so dang emotional. Jesus. That's awesome though. But you got some stuff.
Well, it's true. And when my father passed away, I was 6, so I didn't really have an understanding of the finality of that. In fact, I didn't openly grieve my father's passing until about 6 years later.
Yeah. And I can identify with that.
Yeah. And so as part of looking for an emotional outlet for me and a place to express my emotions is how I ended up getting into theater. And that again, it was a blessing. I really, really enjoyed it. But when I got to the point where, I was an industry vet and that was the thing that I wanted to do. Like I said, I had always thought I was going to go, acting was just going to be a thing that I did. It was an ends to a means to make the money to go and get higher education. But when it was taken away, because at 17 and your face doesn't work, you don't get to go to auditions anymore. And I had to withdraw from the musical that I was performing in. Everything kind of changed overnight. And in fact, I was told by a couple of different people, including one of my directors, that I would never make it in the industry now. And that really lit a fire under me. And I was like, well, no. And so all of a sudden that became the goal. And that became the focus. I was like, no, I'm going to rehabilitate and I'm going to make this and I'm going to make it work. And then all of a sudden, all the rest of those things became trivial. And I wanted to prove to myself that I could be a professional actor and a professional actor on my own, like go move away from home and go and do my own thing.
Yeah.
So that created a real opportunity for me to find who I was as an individual. And so I
Sure.
moved out and did professionally act on my own, living in Vancouver for 7 years. And then around my mid-20s, I got really complacent with it and decided it had become a job.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was tired of working it. And at that point, I'd been in the industry for like 20 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I decided to take a break and finally go back to school. And I'm so thankful that I had that, multiple gap year.
Mm-hmm.
I took 7 years from when I graduated before I even started to contemplate going back to school. And even then, I didn't go back to school for another 3 years. I didn't actually re-enter higher education until I was 28.
Right. Yeah.
And it allowed me to figure out what it was that I wanted. What were my passions? Where did they overlap? And I ended up getting into geomatics engineering, which is Earth study. So anybody who has turned on satellite view of Google Earth or Google Maps, those photo mosaics of the ground, that's what I specialized in doing, is running aerial photography with a fleet of planes. And that became the first business that I ever started. And that failed miserably after 3 years because there were people who were able to do it bigger, better, faster, cheaper than what I was able to do as a small independent photogrammetric shop. And it kind of went, the way that the industry was really changed in between about 2008 and 2015. It drastically changed. And I was learning old methods as new things were being introduced, and there was a curve that couldn't be met.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fast, everything tech grows so fast, exponentially fast, that if you're not well funded and connected, you're going to miss the next iteration of what you're doing, even if you're doing it every day.
Yeah. And so unfortunately that business collapsed on me. And but when you're doing that kind of work, your primary client is the government. And if you're working for the government, they insist that you have a health and safety management system. So I had to get all this health and safety training. And when the business collapsed, a friend of mine was very successful in business, ran his own construction firm, needed a safety manager for a multi-million dollar, like 9-figure build that he was involved in.
Yes.
Many stakeholders in that, a lot of large players. And he was a small fish in the big pond. And I got to go and do this safety management gig on this build for a year. And in doing that, I ended up, working around a lot of tradesmen who I could identify with because they were all my friends and family growing up.
Yes, right. Out on the ranch.
These were all the people that I understood, but these were not my friends. These were trade guys who looked at me like, who are you, actor boy? Get out of here. You don't know how to pull wire. And I remember there was a quarterly inspection that was happening on the build. And so all the big players were there. All the executives from all of the stakeholders were there. And I'm trying to make sure that my guys are doing what they're doing so that we can continue having this contract that is become my sugar daddy.
Yeah.
And they, this meal ticket was not going away for me. And there were these dudes that were working up on this ridiculous height, untied off. There was nothing safe about it. Everything was don't. And I'm like, you got to come down. They're like, you don't even understand what you're asking us to do is actually more dangerous. And like, I
love those guys. I worked with them for so many years.
And so I looked at them and I'm like, let me tell you a story. I used to jump out of 6-story windows and that was safer than what you're doing now.
Right.
Now, that in the heat of the moment was a very truncated stretch of the truth, because the reality is, as an actor, I had the opportunity to twice do some stunts.
Right.
One of them was a high fall out of a 6-story window. And it was because I knew a lot of the stunt guys and trained with them.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do this one stunt this one time. And it really honestly is the safest job that I ever had, because the training that went into it was months long.
Yeah, sure.
Like, we were training for 4 months prior to that gig. The setup on it was 3 days, and the actual amount of film, 3 seconds, and didn't even make it in the final cut of the movie.
Oh, geez.
Like, it's not even a thing that was done. Safest job I ever did.
Hilarious.
And so I'm yelling at these guys. I'm like, I used to jump out of 6-story windows, and that was safer. In fact, it's the safest job that I ever did. And I promise you, what you're doing, you can do safer. And get down and let's talk about it. Because if you think my way is wrong, I'm willing to admit that. Because you're right, I'm not a trades guy, but I know safety, I know engineering, and I know that what you're doing can be done better.
And they're going to have to come down anyway eventually to go home. So come down now, the safest way you know how to come down.
Yeah.
Please.
Come down in a controlled manner as opposed to an uncontrolled manner, because I don't want to have to send you home.
Yeah.
And anyway, one of the executives had heard me because it was a large industrial building. It definitely echoed at that point because the walls were not fully constructed.
Sure.
And he pulled me aside. He was like, "Is that true?" I said, "What?"
Oh, right.
Did you actually jump out of windows? I was like, "Uh-huh." And he said, "And that's the safest job you ever had." I said, "It's safer than anything we're doing here right now."
Yeah, right.
Which caught him completely off guard, right? Because an executive does not want to hear that their building project is dangerous in any way.
Right, yeah.
And he said, "Really?" And so we had a quick conversation. He said, "Would you give that as a toolbox talk tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" So I got, 5 minutes on the floor, got to be able to do this toolbox talk. And then another executive.
That was the birth of Ty, the safety guy?
Yes. So this other executive heard and said, "Would you give that as a keynote presentation at our next safety stand down?"
Oh, I love that.
Sure.
Bam.
Why not? What's a keynote?
Right.
I didn't even know. Right. And so then I had to do the analysis. And yes, Ty, the safety guy, was born of that moment where I was able to do these, really focus in on that amalgamation of all my skills. You know, I do have a really good technical background. I also have a background in performance.
Sure.
I understand safety. I understand how to communicate with people. And I have a diverse background of people who I've communicated with. So I'm comfortable communicating with executives. I'm comfortable communicating with white collar and blue collar workers, tradesmen, like you name it. I'm able to converse with you. I'm able to change the language and pattern.
Absolutely. You can speak to the boardroom, on the stage, or on the floor, the back of a tailgate. You know, that's a very unique gift to be able to communicate effectively and gather the attention and respect of whoever you're standing in front of, and I started from the bottom and worked my way down before I worked my way up in the cable industry because I was a ditch digger. So I had to dig holes first, but then going through the range of every single position in the cable utility construction array, I have literally done every one of it. So I'm very comfortable speaking in any corporate contracting, one-to-one, guy on a tower, doesn't matter, side of the road. These are the unique gifts that only come from going through the motions yourself, and being able to prove and speak the lingo and the words that these guys understand, but also going to the boardroom and understanding and speaking for them and representing that the workers and the leadership, they're on the same team. Not a lot of people see that, but if you know both sides, you can really be unique. So tell us then how you kind of went into the this. I like this, the power to speak naked. I'm kind of fast forwarding because I'd like to give you as much screen time as possible on this, but this is really I'm looking forward to reading it because I am a professional speaker, brand new to the industry, but it's one of my favorite places to be is on stage, and we're taught as I guess, what do you call those people who don't, kind of when you get nervous and you're going to go speak, people are afraid to speak, which I'm not one of them, is to picture the crowd naked. But you're taking that spotlight and flipping that. Tell us about this.
Well, it's because it's the worst advice ever is this picture your audience naked. It's so narcissistic and sadistic. And it's just why? Waste of brain power. And I really wanted to, pardon the pun, expose the lie.
Okay, I like it.
And that is that, if you're doing that, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your audience. That this picturing your audience naked is really not an exercise that works well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were coming up with the title of the book, so the book was birthed a lot from Ty, the safety guy, because I would give these presentations and I had a lot of people come up to me and say, "Well, how are you able to do, like, oh, you're so good at doing that," which is always nice for the ego to hear. But I was like, well, it's easy. Right. And for somebody like you and me, Jeremy, you go, "Oh yeah, no, that's easy." But I forget that not everybody was born into this, that not everybody is found an ease in it. So I had to reverse engineer how I could do that. And then I
Yeah.
was looking at the advice that I kept giving, and I ended up starting to do a training program that I initially totally mistitled, called Basic Instructional Technique, because it had nothing to do with instruction, but really it was all about public speaking. But it needed to sound like something that a safety professional could get into, because if you tell them they're getting into a
Oh,
public
right,
speaking
right.
program, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You tell them you're going to give them basic instructional technique,
Right.
and
That's smart.
That's right. So the Power to Speak Naked, and what is now a 3-day seminar that I put on called The Power of Influence, it came from this basic instructional technique. And a lot of what that book is, because I record everything, because I've been in film and television my whole life, was a transcription of all of those training programs that I'd put together. And we just made it into the book, transcribed everything, put it together. And you can actually see that when you're reading it, because it is quite literally my voice. It's written in my voice.
Yeah.
And so there's times where I read the book and I'm like, I would not have typed it like that. Right. But it's how I speak. And so one of the great feedback that I've gotten from the book is that when people come and see me live, it's like they already know me.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they've read the book, and it's just, who you're getting through it. So that's been the great blessing. But yeah, the book came as a manifestation of Ty the Safety Guy. And now this whole other umbrella has opened up, where I'm doing the keynote presentations, where I'm training people how to public speak, where I'm getting to do this media engagement. Very similar to you, this has only been recent within the last year, where I've really put a push out with it. I have a promoter, Power of Success, that really has taken me under their wing and really wants to see, a lot larger events. I'm getting to speak in Dallas on May 20th, sharing a stage with some incredible names that are going to be there, promoting Power of Influence event. We're going to do an event in Toronto. We're going to do another event in Vegas towards the end of the year. So September and October, I get to put these on. Finally, again, the last one that I did was in 2019 in September. And so to be able to...
Oh my gosh.
We get to be back.
Normally I don't do two of those, but that one is worth it. Hallelujah. We're getting back. We're getting back out on the road, because the hybrid thing only goes so far.
Well, and that's the thing with what I do, right? I can give you theory all day long, virtually, no problem. But I want to show people how to be comfortable on stage. And you can't do that in your basement or in your, on your couch or in your study.
There's only so much to simulating a stage, and the energy of the audience, and the sensation of not being able to see 3 feet in front of your face, except for maybe a confidence monitor, hopefully. Yeah. That might be working. It may or may not. Definitely may or may not be working.
So may or may not, for sure. Always that clock ticking at your face.
The tyranny of time. Yes.
Yeah. So
the start on time and end on time. First 2 rules of any good speaker.
Well, and it's funny because actually in the book, I openly challenge that. I say start on time and finish early, because your promoters tend to actually appreciate that more than finishing on time. And if you finish early, and they're very seldomly going, stretch it out.
Yeah, sure.
You have the opportunity then to really deep dive into some of that material and ask your audience questions, which then gets them more engaged. So I'm always of the opinion that if you I'm been given 15 minutes for Dallas, I'm probably only going to speak for 10. But if I need to fill the full 15, I have the content there to do it. But my talk that I'm actually planning is only 10 minutes.
And then people think, I could never see myself speaking an hour, maybe 10 minutes. And I think it was Mark Twain that said, if you need me to speak an hour, I could be there tomorrow. If you need me to speak for 10 minutes, I need about 2 months to plan that.
Yeah.
It's much harder to get your message opening, middle, end, message, make sense, hit all the spots in a very compact period of time. So I definitely can. And what helped me with that was Toastmasters, of all things, something I've never really looked on with much favor or interest until I became a public speaker. And it's helped me tremendously, this folks. And of course, I joined one that has a lot of professional speakers.
Yeah.
But man, it's so good for entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, anyone who speaks in front of anybody, get that gift of the 7 to 10 minute speech and how to make it make sense in that short time. Man, it's a very powerful group.
Well, where I find Toastmasters to be really effective is the chance for you to continually get up and work your material.
Yeah.
The same way that a stand-up comedian is going to go to hundreds and hundreds of backwater clubs before they ever take their special.
Yes.
To on the road, the Toastmasters having that opportunity to speak regularly, and that's actually why I created Endless Stages, was so that there was an opportunity for people to practice regularly, get feedback regularly on their talk, and so that we can work one-on-one or one-on group.
Yeah, I like it.
Where you can come in and actually practice this so that you can, right? Because luck is 90% preparation and 10% in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, having that opportunity.
And so if you're not doing the preparation, you're never going to be lucky.
No.
and I know
you're
that
going to be afraid of yes.
I know that to be true because I've known that I've wanted to be a very large keynote speaker, right? Like I've got my metrics and my goals, right? I know when I'm going to get that first check where I'm like, now I've actually made it.
Yeah.
I know the stage, right? I want to share a stage with Tony Robbins.
Yes. Yeah.
If I can share a stage with Tony, that means that I've made it to some capacity, right? And having my own event, having a promoter behind me, having a speaker bureau who's behind me, having an agent behind me, these are all things that I've started to check off on that list. But I've only been able to do it because of the prep work that went in. You know,
sure. Yeah.
I am this close to being an overnight sensation, Jeremy.
Exactly. 40 years in the making.
It's only taken 32. 32.
Sure. You're faster than the average rabbit there.
That's right.
I love that saying. So, and then also, I always say, you can't be a hypocrite. I'm a business coach. I've done tremendous amounts of business. I've lost businesses. I've gained certain people tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars over time. And I am a business coach, and I actually have done what I said. The goal of business is to sell a business, and I've done very well at that. But I still have a business coach to this day. I have a speech coach. All right, I have a coach. I have always usually two coaches at any one time. The next venture that I'm going to be coached on is live streaming. I hired a live stream coach to help me with Twitch, because the only Twitch I know is my wife. She's very twitchy. I call her Twitch. That's her little nickname sometimes. Hopefully she won't watch this episode. But I know nothing of it. It's games and it's music, but now it's opening up to a new, and I want to be the first one in there. I want to be one of the very first business people on Twitch to have a following and open up some people's eyes and serve people via live stream. So always growing, in endless stages now. I personally have joined. I can't wait to get my feet wet in there, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you and your partner there. As we land the plane, because obviously I knew we were going to go long, but who's your idea? What's your favorite thing to do, and who do you want to do it with? And if they're listening, if you touch somebody that way, how do they get in touch with you? Let's go through that kind of stuff now.
Okay, well, so first of all, my favorite thing to do, as you and I both know, is to perform and to play music. I love to drum, and I am a horrible drummer. So if I ever got a chance to sit down and have a one-on-one with Dave Grohl, where he could just yell at me about how I'm not good on the drums.
That's it. By the way, his name slipped me earlier, but it's Carter Buford. That's my number one guy who I'd have to love to spend some time with. Dave's drummer, Carter Buford, and just I wouldn't even just to talk with him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And see, and for me, my all-time favorite drummer was Neil Peart, and now
being Canadian,
Canadian and a Rush fan. My uncle is a huge Rush fan, and
I respect him because he wrote most of the songs too. So He was
No,
the smart. He was the brains, and that's not usually our MO, is it?
No, it is not. And I exemplify the stereotype. So
Yeah. I resemble that comment.
I resemble that comment. But but that would, if I could do one thing, that would be it.
Yeah. Well, we
then
should
to
get
answer-
together on say it before you play it on stage. We could do a joint venture one day.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I would be all over it. And then to answer your second question, what if anybody wants to work with us, or if they're curious, very similar to what you've already done, Endless Stages is free.
Yeah.
I've made most of my resources free, and not with asterisks. Like, I'm not trying to sell people on. Yes, they're going to get in on the mail list. Yes, eventually we will put some offers out there. I'm not going to lie, because I'm a business person. Of course, I'm going to do that.
It's a lead magnet, but it's one that serves and gives to whoever joins up without necessarily taking.
Well, and the nice thing is there's nothing in Endless. There's nothing that you're going to get from private coaching with me or from any one of the seminars that you're not going to get through Endless Stages. The difference is, if you go do the private coaching, you're going to be drinking water through a fire hose.
Sure.
You come to one of the workshops, you're going to have a very nice glass of water. And if you come to Endless Stages, I'm going to be giving you information through a thimble.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of how it is.
It's not about connecting too, because you can connect with the other folks, and it's community based.
Well, the other thing is it is community based.
Yeah.
We're there to support each other. So one of the things that we're starting to implement is our Members Mondays, where you have the opportunity to come up on Monday and either present a thing or talk to us or give us your idea. We'll coach you through.
Yeah.
We'll do some live coaching with members, and so that everybody can learn. And then we have Tuesday Tips, where I come on for 20 minutes and teach based on whatever the feedback is from the group. That what are we struggling with? The last 3 weeks have felt like a repeat to me because a lot of what we've been talking about is the pre-talk routine, overcoming your nerves, how to develop a pre-talk routine, how to make it matter to you, recognizing that the audience is on your side, all of these things. And, every week I feel like I'm touching back on the same things because they're basic and fundamental to me.
Right.
But they're presented slightly differently. And each time that we're getting feedback that, oh, that was great, could you explore more of that?
Sure.
And I go, if that's what you need, that's what we're going to do.
That's right. Yeah. And I saw some of that stuff too. So you're repurposing it obviously on your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, and that was really good stuff. And for the listeners, it's Sean Tyler Foley, but it's SEAN.
It's spelled the proper Irish way.
Oh boy.
SEAN.
I'm touching that one. And Tyler, TYLER FOLEY. So just for the listeners, SeanTylerFoley.com. Great website, really great website. Good content, everything that you do, that you stand for, who you help. It's got my name all over it. And I can't wait to be in the trenches with you, and I really can't wait to share a stage with you. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And to that end, Jeremy, for anybody who is coming on and they're hearing about me for the first time through you, one of the things that I would ask that they do is, if whatever device they're listening to this now, I would ask that they hit pause right now, hit pause on this and give the GoPROcast a 5-star review, and let them, specifically Jeremy, know what episode had the most impact for you. Let him know the content that is serving you so that he can get more guests on that or like that. And the only way to do that is to give a good, proper review. So don't just get lazy, because I know I'm guilty of it too. Here's the 5 stars, walk away. No, say what had some impact for you. And if you're willing to do that, if you do come over to the website, to SeanTylerFoley.com, or if you just search Endless Stages through Facebook, you'll link to it no matter what. All things point to Endless Stages, because I want to be serving you for free first. Anybody who comes from the GoPROcast podcast, if you're listening to this now, and you've hit pause and given the 5-star review.
He's going to check with me.
I'm going to check. I want to know. But anybody who does that, you'll get free access to a copy of The Power to Speak Naked. So please do that. But only if you're giving those 5-star reviews. I want to make sure that that we're serving each other in this, and that's the best way to get more of the GoPROcast.
That's wonderful. No one's ever done that, so thank you for that. You're obviously a Bob Burke fan, being Go Giver, and the endless referrals principles into the endless stages. I'm a fan. I'm on board. I want to be on endless stages. My friend, you're going to help me. Do me a favor, stick around so I can say a proper goodbye. As I say goodbye to the people who do support this show. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate Tyler's really thoughtful, process there to stop, pause, and say thank you in such a way that you tell us who you like, why you like, so we can actually duplicate that. And going back to the R&D theory, we've had some really great people on lately. Last couple of episodes, this one in particular, has really touched me, and it's almost selfish. I'm having these people on, but I know that you, my audience, have just as much, inquisitive questions for these people who are just doing what I want to do and doing it better and doing it bigger. And so what I would say to you is the only way that you can do that is to continue to go pro.